Live right now. All right, so welcome to the 10th installment of Create Your New Life Real Estate Training, powered and presented by Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm, as you can see with the sign on the wall in the back. So another week under the belt, and again, I always enjoy coming together with everybody that participates in our trainings on a weekly basis for some motivation, for some empowerment, for some technique, for whatever you need to be successful in this business. Been doing it for about 12 years now. Know what it takes to make some money. I know what it takes to not to give up. I know what you need, what resources that you need to keep you moving forward in the right direction. So, all right, not a lot on the agenda today. Not like previous sessions. We don't have a whole bunch. But I really wanted to take an opportunity to go through some review. That's why I called this one Connecting the Dots. One of the biggest pieces with being successful in this business as an agent is understanding how does it all fit together. You get this information, you get all of this knowledge and this wisdom, but how do you make it all fit and work to where the end result is you making money? Because I understand it may sound nice to say, oh, well, I'm in this business because I like houses, or I like helping people. I like helping people put people in houses. That sounds great, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with liking to help people put people in houses. I like helping put people in houses. I'm not, a house is a house, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, bricks, foundation, roof, like they kind of have all the same. So I'm not just overly in love with houses or properties, but I do like putting people in houses. But at the end of the day, I got into this business to make money. I got in this business to have a different quality of life for how I provide for my family. I got into this business to be able to capitalize off of the flexibility that the business offers, yet I can't have the flexibility and my bills not getting paid. Like I gotta have both. So what happens a lot of times is that people get into this business and we begin to, we've been working a 9 to 5 so long that now that I have an opportunity, I'm my own boss, then I don't want to have to operate in that type of culture, in that type of set start date. Starting time, ending time. You don't want to operate in that kind of environment. And that's the worst thing that you can do when getting into real estate, is not maintain the mind frame of working a 9 to 5. You have to maintain that, because the only difference is not that you don't work within the boundaries and the guidelines of a 9 to 5. What changes is who you are working for within those guidelines and those boundaries, right? Let me repeat that. It's not, what doesn't change when you leave your job, your 9 to 5. What doesn't change is your mind frame of having to work within the boundaries or the guidelines of a 9 to 5, meaning starting at 9, ending at 5, or whether 8 or 5, 8 or 6, whatever it is, but having a start time and an end time. Like, that doesn't change. What changes now is who you're doing that for. See, when you were working for somebody else, you were starting at 9 and ending at 5. You were devoting your time for the benefit of somebody else. You were trading in time for dollars, right? That's what you were selling. You were selling your time to somebody else, and they were paying you for the time that you was giving them. Well, that's what happened when you were working for somebody else. Well, when now you transition over, you're working for yourself, but you still need to work for yourself within those guidelines of a set start time and a set end time. You still need to operate for you the same level of structure and concept that you were devoting to somebody else before you quit your job. So that can't change. But unfortunately, that's the first thing that goes. Is that, oh, I don't work for so and so anymore. I didn't quit that corporate job, so now I don't want to be feeling like I have to come to work and work in an office job. I don't want to be feeling like that. That's the worst thing that can happen, but unfortunately, that's what happens a lot. That's the first thing that goes, and because that's that first thing that goes, and you start operating within that uh, realm of flexibility, you're putting yourself in a bad position to make money. Because the reason that they had you go from 9 to 5 every day consistently 40 hours a week, the reason they had you do that, because they understood you got to put, I need your time to be able to consistently produce income or profit for the company. Well, you got to do the same thing. You got to consistently put in the time, 40 hours or more a week, just like if you're doing at a job. You got to consistently do that to ensure that you have the income that you're going to need to fund the quality of life that you're looking to fund. So those are key. Now, the reason I went on that tangent a little bit was because connecting the dots has a lot to do with that. When you tap into it, the level of flexibility and the income that I'm looking to generate by being in this business, I have to understand how it all fits together and how it all connects. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's why I named our session today around that. So I know we typically talk about some new things coming down the pipeline. I ran across some items, but I just didn't really see anything that was just hot off the press. So I felt like, since we were going to be trying to connect these dots a lot, using some of the past sessions that we've talked about, piecing it all together, how does it all work together, I would just use more time doing that. So before we get into that, though, and I believe I talked about it briefly the very first session that we had, I wanted to spend some time today, especially since we're talking about connecting the dots, to reintroduce to you all the Brooks and Davis core ideology. And the reason that I believe that is key is because to keep you focused and to keep you on path, you need to have something that's guiding what you're doing. I call it clarity. You got to have clarity when it comes to your life. Why are you doing what you're doing? A lot of people accomplish that with a personal mission or a personal vision, a personal goal. That's how they provide clarity of, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what is my reason for, I'll just say, we don't even use real estate. What's my reason for getting up and going to work every day? What's my reason for getting out of the bed? What's my reason for putting my clothes on, getting in my car, going wherever I'm going, whether a job, whether with real estate? What's my reason for doing that? What's my reason for the church that I attend? What's my reason for the friends that I'm involved in, or the organization that I'm involved in? Why am I doing that? Am I doing it because somebody else thought it would be a good idea? Am I doing that because I don't know. What's my reason? And most of us are walking around, and if you see me look down, it's because I'm monitoring the group me as well. But most of us are walking around without any clear identity on, or reasoning, rationale on why they're doing what they're doing. So that's why I want to speak about the core ideology today, because the core ideology is what guides why Brooks and Davis does what it does. And outside of the core ideology, I have a Michael G. Davis, a personal ideology of what drives me. The interesting thing about it, and I guess it's not too interesting, is the fact that you see my personal core ideology in the Brooks and Davis ideology, because Brooks and Davis is an extension of me. Because I created it along with Mr. Brooks, you see me in it, on the things that have defined and make us different as a real estate company. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wasn't going to do this, but I think I do want to do it now. I actually, when I got honored last Saturday, I had to give a statement. And I actually put that statement, let me share my screen so I can show you where the statement is. I actually put that statement in your 7-Dot training folder under good stuff, but I want to read it right here. Maybe I didn't put it in here. I thought it was something else. Maybe let's look. Let me see. No, that wasn't my statement. Let me just paraphrase it because I thought I had it in there. But let me just paraphrase it. That's something else that's in there. So my statement was that, well, what they were asking is that what advice would I give to somebody that was younger than me, that had some words of wisdom or some words of advice, right? And what I said to them was, let me turn this off because it's spring break, so some of the staff is not in. What I said was that for you to be successful, you have to introduce a level of clarity into your life. Like, this is my statement that I was given at this honors banquet that I attended last week. There has to be a level of clarity in your life, and the way that you bring clarity to your life is by having a core, an ideology, right? And your ideology should include a goal. It should include a goal, a purpose, and values. A goal, a purpose, and values. That's what should drive you. That will give you clarity on why you're doing what you're doing, because you have a goal, a purpose, and values, right? The goal should be something that you're looking to achieve, some level of impact that you're looking to accomplish. That's your goal. Let's see something. No. That's your goal. Your purpose should be why you want to accomplish that goal, right? It should be, hold on, let me try to get Valerie on here. I said I wasn't going to do this because I start trying to get you guys on 30 minutes before. And that's why, because I don't want to be distracted out of the training. But I just sent her the invite, see if we can get her on. So the purpose is why you want to accomplish whatever particular goal that is that you're shooting for. And then your values is as you're seeking that goal, and whatever your rationale is around it, as you're seeking to achieve that goal, what kind of person or what kind of, in essence, person are you going to be as you're trying to achieve that goal? So, goal, purpose, values. All right, so let's look at Brooks and Davis's core ideology and how it's broke down like that. So, when talking about the Brooks and Davis ideology, and we call it a big, hairy, audacious goal, or BHAG. So it's a goal that that seems outrageous, yet you want to position yourself to achieve it. So the BHAG for Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm is to be the #1 real estate company in the state in production and profitability by 2020. So this is a 4-year goal. Now, our ultimate BHAG is to be the #1 real estate company in the world. So that's it. Like, you take your years off, because who knows how long that's going to take. But the ultimate thing that we're shooting for, Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm, is to be the #1 real estate company in profitability and production in the world. Okay, so now, because that goal is so huge, you got to break it down in chunks. So the first thing we got to do is get out of the city. We got to get out of the uh, state. We got to get out of the nation. Then we got to get into the world. All right, we got to get out of our community, get into the city. Like, we got to be number one and compartmentalize our number one status. So let's first try to get out of the state by 2020. So Brooks and Davis wants to be the number one real estate company in production and profitability by 2020. All right, now why do we want to be that? Why do we want to achieve that humongous goal? Well, that we want to be that because we want to create a greater experience for every stakeholder in the real estate community. That's what we want to do, right? If we're successful in creating in those everyday moments, those everyday things that we do, if we're successful for creating an experience that's greater than anybody else can create in this real estate community that we're a part of, if we're successful at doing that, then, you know, by all means, I know we're going to be number one in production and profitability. Because at that point, no one's going to be doing it better than us. Nobody's going to be achieving things better than us if we focus on creating that greater experience for everyone. And when I say every stakeholder, I'm not just talking about buyers and sellers or investors. I'm talking about all those people. But the real estate community has affiliates. It has mortgage companies, and it has home warranty companies, and insurance. Like, everybody that is credit restoration, everybody that's involved in that community. Now, why would we want to create a greater experience for everybody? Well, the reason we want to do that is because, just like today, I'll use today as an example. There's a lady, Catherine Hunter, called into the office from BB&T, and she called into the office this morning because she had somebody sitting in front of her that came into that was looking at one of our listings. Now, the guy, he didn't have a realtor. He went into her office and showed her this property that he was interested in that had our phone number on it. And she called in, and because, you know, staff's not in, I picked the phone up and I had to handle that call, and it turned into a lead, right? It turned into a buyer that wasn't represented by an agent looking at a property, and it was an opportunity for me to offer to Catherine and to her client us to be able to help them, right? Now, because loan officers are typically trying to get our business, they're rarely in an opportunity to give us leads because they get their leads from us. So, yet there are times when they do have leads, and they can give you an opportunity to make money. And it's not just with your mortgage professionals, insurance people, home warranty people, you know, these people that we're typically sending leads to. There's opportunity for them to send us business as well. So we don't want to just create that greater experience for people that we feel that we can get benefit from, like a buyer or a seller or an investor or a tenant. We want to do that for everybody that's involved in our community. Operate from a standpoint of community. People will see us different. So it's not just about what you can do for us. It's about what we can do for each other. It's not about just being independent. It's about being interdependent. Interdependent to me is extremely important, because what interdependent says is that not that I don't need you, because that's what independent says. See, dependent says I need you. Independent says I don't need you. Interdependent says we need each other. Dependent says I need you to do whatever you do for me. So it's a lot of people out there that's living like dependents. Then you have independent. That's somebody saying, well, I don't need you. I can get this thing by myself. They're independent. But interdependence is where we need to be. And that's where we start talking community. You need me and I need you. Let's collaborate. Let's work together so we can all accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. So that's what you see here in our core purpose, to create a greater experience for every stakeholder in the real estate community. So we talked about what our goal is. We talked about why we want that to be our goal. So now we're going to talk about what kind of person are we going to be? What kind of company, what kind of culture are we going to have as we're attempting to achieve that goal, right? So these are our values, our core values. Our core values, we want to exceed the expectations of our clients, our customers, and our colleagues. We have a constant positive attitude. We treat and respect one another like family. We're continually learning, improving, and operating in the most productive manner. In essence, we're going to be the best of the best when it comes to real estate professionals in this business. Now, when I say Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm core ideology, I'm not just talking about me and Brooks and the staff or our teammate. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody that's a member of the Brooks and Davis family. This is the culture that I'm driving to create, because I want us to be the best of the best. When somebody sees Brooks and Davis on a contract, a listing, on a HUD, on a commission check, when they see that, I want them to know that they're dealing with the best of the best. That this is the type of agent, this is the type of company that I want to collaborate, that I want to work with, that I want to partner with, because this company believes interdependence and not dependency and not independent. Dependency is what you can do for me. Independent is I don't need anything. I can get this thing by myself. We're talking interdependence. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time reintroducing the core ideology, because it's something that I want to permeate through the entire company. Every week at our staff meetings, we recite this. Every day I look at it because it's next to me on my stand here. It's on the wall here. It's something that I take into consideration when I'm having an interaction or a conflict or engaging in something. It's something that speaks back to me. You know, am I treating and respecting that person? All right, especially if it's a Brooks and Davis team member. Am I treating and respecting them as if they're my family? That's why whenever I send mass emails out or anything, I say, "Good afternoon, family." Guess what, family? Because that's what I see all of you all as my family, not just my agent, not just an opportunity to make money off of you. I see you as my family, right? Am I always positioning myself to where I'm continually learning, I'm continually improving, I'm continually operating in the most productive manner? Because at the end of the day, it all starts at the top. So if that's my expectation for you all, then I have to be doing that as well as the president, as the lead for the company, for the organization. So it's something that I'm always going to be referencing back to. Just like I'm always referencing back to the job description of a realtor, those 6 items, I'm always going to be referencing back to our ideology, because these are the things that drive and put us in a position to be successful. Right? So I thought it would be a good time for us to reintroduce that as well. So talking about connecting the dots. So we've had about 9 sessions, and we've covered a number of things when it came to our sessions. You know, we talked about lead generation. Well, first we talked about getting organized, right? We talked about lead generation, or CRM, right? We had a session about that. We had a session about some different lead generation options. So that was with, House Ty. When we had the special guest House Ty come on and talk about how we could use that from a lead generation standpoint, as well as, positioning ourselves to be better than the next person. We talked about lead follow-up. What does that look like? As well as, additional lead generation options, like specific options like building relationships with builders. We looked at that as a lead generation option. And then last week we talked about, networking, right? So networking is a lead generation option, right? So it's always going to fall back into those 6 things: getting organized, lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, self-improvement. Everything that we do, everything that you do on a daily basis should go back to one of those 6 things. It offers you clarity, right? So a couple of my major takeaways today. Number 1, I really do want you to have a moment of reflection and ask yourself. In Keller Williams' book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it says the big why. It tells you to start with your big why. Um, an event I went to Thursday from the Houston Black Real Estate Association, and they brought in Donna Wick. She's a uh, public relations specialist, and her talk was built around you understanding your purpose, and that you have a purpose, and you understanding that, and you driving from the fact that you understand that you have a purpose. That's what her talk was around. So, you know, I'm saying the same thing. Have that moment of reflection and put on paper a core ideology for yourself, or a mission statement. It doesn't even have to be an entire ideology like we have. Just get a mission statement, right? My mission statement for the longest, and when I say for the longest, I probably came up with this statement when I first quit my job back in 2004. And when I first launched out to this journey of real estate 12 years ago, I came up with a purpose, a core purpose, or a mission statement at the time. And it's morphed over time, made some adjustments here and there. But the gist of it has pretty much remained the same, right? So my mission has always been to teach and help others reach the pinnacle of their potential and be an example of love through the way that I live my life. So that's been my mission. That's been my core on the inside of me, offered me a level of clarity on why I do what I do, me understanding who I am. I've carried that for the last 12 years. To teach and help others reach the pinnacle of their potential and be an example of love through the way that I live my life. There have been some iterations of that to where I replaced pinnacle of their potential to purpose, to teach and help others reach their purpose. And I've interchanged love and Christ to be an example of Christ through the way that I live my life, right? But I feel like those things are interchangeable. But the gist of it is to teach and help people reach their pinnacle, to pull all of it out of them, right? And to be an example of love through the way that I live, right? To be a model, to be an example. And I do my best as I operate and as I engage with you all. That's what drives me, and that's what's on the inside of me. So that gives you a little bit of in-depth. I want you to do the same for yourself. You need to go deep. You need to dig in deep and find out what you are built on. What are you built around? You need to find that out. So we want you to do that. Now we're going to move into how do you connect these dots? How do you put it all together? Let's start with getting organized. And again, remember, we have a couple of sessions in the 7-dot training folder that talks about these. How do you get organized? Let's see. I just want to show you. Today I'm going to use the 7-dot training folder as my outline. The Create Your New Life Real Estate Training as my outline. So right here was the very first session that we have. You had got to get organized. And then we followed it up with your vitamin box. So you've got to get organized, and your vitamin box was about the calendar, and your vitamin box was about the CRM. Well, every day you get out your bed. So now you're a new realtor. You don't have a job anymore. When your alarm clock goes off, or like when you had a job, you would set your alarm for a certain amount of time because you needed to be to work at a certain amount of time. So we'll just say 9 o'clock. So you had a job, and they said that you would come to work Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Your your hours, your schedule, your work schedule is what they call it. Well, now you don't have a job, whether you lost it or you quit. So now you don't have a work schedule. But what do you do if you're a realtor, or you're self-employed, or a business owner, whatever you want to call yourself? When tomorrow hits, or Monday, we'll say Monday. When Monday hits, what time do I get up? Right? I mean, I don't have a job, so there's nobody there that's making me be somewhere. So what time should I get up? And most, or a lot of people that I've come across, they don't have an answer to that question. Yeah, it sounds good. I hear what Mike's saying. I should have 9 to 5. I should operate on my calendar. I should time block. I hear all of that stuff that he's saying. I look at the video. I hear it. But Monday gets here. Do I really need to get up right now? I mean, do I really need to go to the bed? I mean, whatever your routine was in the morning when you had a job, you get up, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you get your clothes out, you put your clothes on, you make you some breakfast, get you some coffee, you get in the car, you make your commute, and you get to work. Well, now I don't have a job. Do I really need to do that? Do I? I mean, I'm a realtor, self-employed. I make my own schedule. I make my own hours. Do I really need to do that? Yes, you do. You need to, when Monday gets here, have the same morning routine as if you are going to work. You need to get up at a set time. Like today, my alarm clock went off at 8 o'clock because I knew I needed to get things going. And 8 o'clock for me is a late start for me. But you need to, but my regular work day, a lot of times my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning because there's some things that I need to do before I get my day going. But my regular work day begins at 6. I get up, 6 o'clock, got to get my kids together. So I go through, I have a routine as if I'm going to a job. Get up, take a shower, put my clothes on, eat some breakfast, get the kids ready to go on, get them in the car, get them to school. And then I come to work. I come to the office. I'm at the office every day between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Every day. Right? Now, can I stay at home? Absolutely. There's nobody watching over me to make sure that I'm coming to work on time. I don't have a boss or a manager or a supervisor, middle-level management. I don't have any of that stuff. So what do I have? I have a choice. I made a conscious choice, a conscious decision to operate within the schedule that I placed on my time block, right? So now when I'm time blocking my time, I'm saying the start time Monday through Friday is going to be 9 o'clock. It's the same thing as if I went into a job interview, gave them my resume, filled out the application, they hired me, they told me you need to report to work every day at 9 o'clock. It's the same thing. The only difference is that I'm doing it for me and I'm not doing it for somebody else. So every day on your calendar, 9 o'clock needs to be your start time, period. And the only person that can make you committed to that start time is you. It is a choice. You are your boss. When you say I'm my own boss, you got to understand what that means. That means that you are the one that's responsible and accountable for whatever happens when it comes to this business. So the only person that's going to make you go to work every day at 9 o'clock is you. Now, what kind of boss are you going to be is the question that you need to ask yourself. What kind of boss am I going to be for myself? So that's what you got to do. As you're creating that on your calendar, you have to put in so now we say we got you committed to coming in at 9 o'clock. So we got it on your calendar, right? We got the time block in there. So from 9 to 12, what's going to be there, right? I recommend, especially if you're brand new, that you devote that time block at least from 10 to 12 to lead generation. Do 9 to 10 administration work. So now that I've committed myself to being to work for 9 o'clock every day, what do I do? What does it really look? So from 9 to 10, I work on admin stuff, right? Is there some stuff I need to put in the system? Is it some paperwork I needed to do? Is it Is it a lease that I'm working on? Is it just any paperwork stuff that you can do on the computer? Just get in the mind frame of devoting that hour time from 9 to 10 to get as much of that stuff out the way. Don't try to finish it all. You're never going to be able to finish all your admin work. You're always going to have more stuff to do. So don't get to tripping because you're not able to complete everything. You're never going to be able to complete it. There's always going to be more work for you to do than there's time for you to get it done. So don't trip on that. So, but from 9 to 10, that's what you work on. Okay. From 10 to 12, lead generation. I'm always going to advocate lead generation in the morning because that's when you're more refreshed. That's the most important thing that you do. Therefore, you need to be the most refreshed, have the most energy, be in the best state that you can be in when you're doing it. So 10 to 12, do some lead generation, right? Typically around 11, 12 o'clock, people stop really answering the phones. So if you could do 9 to 11, it would be better, and maybe do 8 to 9 your administration stuff. But look, I'll take 10 to 12 because at least gives you a good strong hour from 10 to 11 to get as many contacts in as you can. What is lead generation? Hey, you got some people you need to return you hadn't heard from, some clients that you're working with, do some cold calling. When I say cold calling, go on Zillow, get some sell by owners. Look, come into the office. We got plenty of people for you to call. When I say we have plenty of people that you could be calling, we have plenty of people that you could be calling. We could have 4 or 5 agents in this office and still have enough people for everybody to call during an hour time slot of lead generation, even just answering the phones. So yeah, I know you may come to the office and it seems like it's filled with agents. It doesn't matter. You come tell me that you want to do something. You come tell me that you want to make some phone calls, and trust me, I can put a list in front of you in less than 30 seconds. You can have a list in front of you with some people to call. So maybe you could be reaching out to people on social media. I'm not one of those people that say that you don't need to be lead generating on social media. No, that is a very good platform for you to engage with people on. So social media, sending out emails to people that you followed up with, something you need to be doing from a lead generation standpoint. Generating leads, putting in the work, planting the seeds of those opportunities. You need to be doing that on your schedule, right? So now let's bring in the CRM. Well, because you got your CRM set up, and as you're making these phone calls, doing this networking, you're getting these names of these individuals and you're placing it in your CRM. Well, now from this 10 to 12 o'clock time slot, you have a place that you can go to pull the people that you need to be emailing, calling, looking for on social media. Like you have a actual thing, bucket, vitamin box is what I called it, that you can go and pull these people and reach out to them during that 10 to 12 time slot on a daily basis. You have somewhere to go to get those people. So that's why it's important. That's how I'm going to connect the CRM to what we're doing, right? You got your calendar, because now you get into a point to where all you have to do when your alarm clock goes off is pull your phone out with your calendar on it, or pull your book out with your calendar on it, and look to see, well, what are the appointments that I have? Because your morning, we've already set your morning up. You already know, well, what do you do? Well, at 8 o'clock, or at 9 o'clock, I do my admin stuff, and at 10 o'clock, I start lead generating. So I'm going to go to today, I'm going to go to my CRM off top and look at my call list and who has been slated for me to call today from my CRM. Or I got a list of past clients. So today, I'm going to call my past clients. I have a list of a category of people that I met from a networking event. I'm going to call all those people today and see if I can invite them to lunch. All right. So now let's bring in the networking piece, right? That's what we're doing today. We're going to connect some dots. How does it all fit together? Let's bring in the networking piece, right? So on your calendar, you want to make sure that you have at least two networking events that you're attending per week. Now that's the minimum. That's the minimum 2 per week. You can do however many. I mean, if you have the time, you should be trying to do as many as you can. But you should at least have 2 slated, written down on your calendar, at least 2 per week, right? So now as you're going to these networking events and you're getting the business cards, right? A portion of the follow-up, right? The what do you do once you get the business card? Remember, we're connecting the dots. As I go out and I network and I get the business card, as I follow up with them with an email, we talked about that. Sending a thank you card, we talked about that. Phone call of trying to set up a time we can grab coffee, we talked about that. Looking, searching for them on Facebook or LinkedIn to connect with them on Facebook or LinkedIn and send them a request, we talked about that. So that's your follow-up piece, right? Well, a portion of that is adding that person to my CRM. So now that person's been placed inside of my CRM, and I maybe called them to set up the coffee appointment, but they didn't answer the phone. So I want to try to call them again in 3 days. So they're in the CRM, and I put them on my call list in the CRM. So 3 days from today is going to pop up in my CRM for me to call that individual, so I can try to set a coffee appointment with them. Now, in our follow-up, we 7 times. Call them at least 7 times before you give up on them. All right? And even when I put them on my call list, say I try to call them, they don't pick up, so I send them an email. But then I see that they're on LinkedIn, so I connect with them on LinkedIn, and then I in-message them and ask them, hey, I think it would be great for us to grab some coffee and for us to sit down together, right? So all of this is in follow-up, right? So I'm connecting what? I've taken lead generation, I've taken being organized, right? Because we had our calendar, and now we've time blocked, right? The stuff that we're doing in the morning time, as well as we've added the networking events that we're going on, right? And then we go to those events and we're networking at those events as a portion of our lead generation, right? So then as we get the business cards, we're going to follow up with them with all of these different measures, phone calls, emails, thank you cards, all of that stuff, right? And then we've added them into our CRM, right? Which is what we talked about under being organized, having your CRM set up. And now we're using and utilizing the CRM with our call list. So now it's notifying us and to continue to support and supplement us with our lead follow-up. So in 3 days, when my alarm goes off and I do my routine and I get to the office and I've taken care of my admin work, and now I've gotten to that 10 to 12 slot of lead generation, I look at my CRM on my call list and I see now I need to call this person and I need to invite them for some coffee, right? See, it's all connected, and once you connect it all together, you just repeat it. It just becomes a cycle. You just do it all over again, just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. You want to make money in this business, you want to make consistent money in this business, you have to have consistent activity. There has to be things that you're consistently doing on an everyday basis. It can't be hit or miss. It can't be, okay, I'm going to do it today, I'm not going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it today and tomorrow, but then I'm not going to do it the day after that. Or I'm not going to do it today, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, but then I'm going to do it on the next day. Like, it can't be sporadic like that, because if it's sporadic like that, then your income will be sporadic like that. Yet the only problem with sporadic income is that your bills are never sporadic. Every month on whatever day, that bill is going to be due, period. Done. Out of the question. So if you don't have the income to be able to pay that bill, then it's going to offer you a quality of life that you don't want. So you have to create your life in such a way that your activity is consistent. And that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about connecting the dots. You being organized allows for you to have consistency in the way that you operate your business and the way that you live your life, right? So when I'm saying get a calendar and a CRM, that can't just go in one ear and out the other. It just can't, because you're not positioning yourself to have consistent income. You can't have consistent income and not build the foundation to put yourself in a position to have that stuff. So it's wishful thinking to think, I'm going to get in this business, I'm going to be successful, and not have these foundational things that I'm telling you to put in place. stop believing that you're going to make money, because you have not positioned yourself, put yourself in a position to make it, to get it done, right? You have to see how all this stuff is connected and how all of this stuff is intertwined for it to end with real dollars in your hand. You got to get all this stuff working together for you, and you got to be doing it on a consistent basis. Like, consistency is key. It's very key, right? So I think I brought in about 5 of our sessions that we've already talked about, right? The getting organized with the calendar, the CRM, the networking, the lead generation, the lead follow-up piece, right? And then when we looked at, I've given you all opportunities and ideas of different ways to lead generate. We talked about house tie. I don't know how many of you all set your house tie up. You could use that as an opportunity to call for sale by owners and say, look, I'm not asking for your listing. I just want to tell you about this house tie, right? How many agents do you think have called for sale by owners and just to say, I don't know if you knew about this, I just want to tell you about this. If you give me your email address, I can email this to you. So now what have you done? You've just captured contact information. Where can you put that information? In your CRM, right? So you call it for sale by owner, you see a sign on the yard, you get their phone number, you get their address, right? You call them, they answer. Okay, you tell them about house tie, right? And we have a video about house tie. So, and it talks about how you can use it as a lead generation resource. You tell that for sale by owner about house tie, and now that for sale by owner is interested, they're all going to say the same thing. Well, can you email me some information? Let me think about it. That's what they're going to say. Well, give me your email address. So now you've captured that for sale by owner's email address. All right. You get off the phone with them. You take their information and you add them to your CRM. You have a label in your CRM that says for sale by owners, right? You add their name, phone number, email address, some notes in there on what you talked about, that you're going to send them the information about house tie. Then you put them on your call list to follow up with them in 3 days. 3 days is always the magic number. I wouldn't wait a whole week to follow up with people. 72 hours. And even before I get off the phone with the sale by owner, I'm saying, hey, well, look, I'm going to email it to you. I'm going to follow up with you in a couple of days. Is that okay? They're going to say, cool. So you put them in the CRM. You put them on your call list for 3 days, right? So now, and then you email them the information about house tie, and which all y'all should be doing it, you should tally it off because you need to be keeping track of your contacts. So you tally that off as a contact for the day. So now when 3 days hits, not only are you going to get on your call list, or you're going to get the person you need to call for coffee, you're going to get the for sale by owner you need to follow up with that you sent the information to about house tie, right? So now, again, multiply that. Multiply that. Call the next for sale by owner. Do the same thing. Call the next for sale by owner. Call the next for sale by owner. Call the next for sale by owner, and do the same thing, right? Yeah, there's all these scripts out there that's talking about getting a for sale by owner to list the home with you. They don't want to list with you because they want to sell it on their own. Now, statistics say 85% of them are going to use a real estate agent. The statistics say that, right? But that it doesn't say how long it's going to take for them to come to the conclusion that they're going to list with an agent. So there's some time before that happens, right? What you got to do is you have to position yourself to stay connected to that for sale by owner, so when they do decide that they want to list, that they're tired of it, they're frustrated enough with all of this that they're dealing, all these different phone calls, 50 agents, you ask them, you say, well, how many calls you got? I got a lot of calls. Well, how many buyer calls? Well, I got 50 agent calls and 3 buyer calls, right? That's what you're going to hear from them, because that's what happens. They find for sale by owners and realtors call them, and it frustrates them. You got to position yourself. You got to give them a reason for them to want to stay connected with you. So when that moment does happen and they get frustrated, they're not going to call these other 48 realtors. They're going to call this one realtor right here that showed them something different, and remind them, or you just need to call them and check in on the day that they want to make that decision. What happens if you get a call and say, hey, did you check out the house tie stuff? well, yeah, I checked it out, I thought it was great, but, you know, tell me a little bit more about what you would do if you listed the house. Like, that's how it works with for sale by owners. But again, you would have not known to call them at that time if your CRM hadn't reminded you, right? And your CRM can't remind you if you don't have if you've never placed them in the CRM, and you can't never place them in the CRM if you never get the CRM, right? So it all is connected to get you to the common end that you're looking to get, right? And you got to start putting it all together, right? I mean, I think literally, I think I do have hundreds, maybe even thousands of scenarios that I can present on how it all connects together, right? Because once the for sale by owner says, tell me more about what you would do if you would list my house, then you set the appointment, right? So we ain't even got to the set the appointment. You set the appointment, which is a part of the 6 things that we talk about. And then after you set the appointment, you get them, you know, you got to get them to hire you. But see, before you get to the appointment, you want them to be so already warmed up. You've already offered them so much value that it's a no-brainer for them to use you. See, people, if you present yourself as valuable to people, then they're going to use you. You have to focus on being valuable, to offer something of value to a person that they can't get on their own or from somebody else. You got to find out, what is that thing that makes you unique? What is that thing that makes you valuable to these people? Because once you show that to them and they see you as valuable, whether that's an attorney, a CPA, a buyer, a for sale by owner, an expired listing, an apartment person, it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, if you can show yourself as valuable to them, they will refer business to you. They will use you. It's inevitable. With the investors, it doesn't matter. You got to find out, how can I show you, how can I be of value to you? How can I show you that I'm valuable to you? And once you do that, by the time you get to the appointment, it's easy for them to sign the paperwork. A lot of times you just got to ask. We're all familiar with signing paperwork for things that we want to purchase because we feel like it'll be valuable to us. People don't have to. If I need a new cell phone, if I go into Sprint, I've already made up in my mind that I need a new cell phone. So Sprint ain't got to sell me on signing paperwork to buy a new cell phone. I made up in my mind that that's something that I need. So by the time you meet with the for sale by owner, it needs to be in his head, he needs a realtor, right? When you go to the Sprint store, it ain't a matter of if I need a cell phone, it's which cell phone. So at the time you meet with the for sale by owner, you're not selling the fact that he needs a realtor. You're selling the fact which kind of realtor he needs. He needs you. You're the better realtor for him at that time, by the time you meet with him, right? Once you get to the appointment, you market it, you get it under contract, you're negotiating contracts, right? Then that's when you close, you close, and then you get paid, right? Like, all of these things, we had to take it all the way back to you having a calendar in place with a specific time to lead generate, have a CRM, and go through this entire motion before we got to the closing table with the for sale by owner. It takes all of that if you're gonna make money in real estate. It ain't just, I took the test and I got a license, and I know that Jerry Sue wants to sell a house. That's not it. It takes all of that to have consistent income and for you to create the life that you want, to change your quality of life. The reason that you quit your job, for you to experience that, it takes everything that I'm telling you about. And it's not something that I read in a book. This is a life, this is a journey that I've walked, that I've lived, that I've seen work. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. I've seen what other people have done and how it didn't work for them. I've seen what other people have done and how it did work for them. I've seen the stuff that I've tried, that I've used, that worked, that didn't work. So this isn't something that I read about. This is something that I am telling you I know, but I can't make you do it. Nobody can make you do it but you. What kind of boss are you going to be for yourself? What level of clarity have you pointed to that's going to drive you to do these things that I'm telling you to do, right? You have got to connect these dots. if you are going to take your business to the level that you want it to be at, there has to be consistency. You have to operate your business as if you operated the same way you were operating when you had a job. You have to operate your business the exact same way. If somebody calls me at 2 o'clock and they ask me, what are you doing? What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm at work. What are you doing? Are you at work? I'm at work at 2 o'clock. I don't get off till 5 o'clock. Now, who determines what time I get off? I do, but I'm at work. You call me at 9 o'clock, I'm at work. Somebody call me right now, I'm at work. 12:30, I'm at work. 1 o'clock, work. 2 o'clock, work. 3 o'clock, work. 5 o'clock, I may be at work, but I may be off, right? 6 o'clock, I may be at work, but I may be off. But if you call me within 9 to 5, I'm going to be at work, period. I don't care what. I'm going to be working. I'm going to be at work. I'm going to be either at my office or networking or doing something else that I'm telling you guys, right? So, last couple of things. I think I may continue this conversation next week because this one is big. Getting you all to see how it all works and how it all connects is really big to getting you all to be productive in this business. So I think I am going to continue this conversation next week. You know, we've gotten to the point now where we've time blocked your calendar up until noon, right? Well, then what you do is you set your first appointment for 12:30 because you got to go on appointments, right? When that for sale by owner says, well, tell me a little bit more about what you can do for me as far as selling my house. Well, great. Can I meet with you today if you have an open slot? Can I meet with you today at 12:30? If 12:30 doesn't work, can I meet with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Like, you tell him what time you want to meet. And the only way that you're able to do that is because you have your calendar set up a certain way and you've devoted and blocked the time for you to be doing those activities. That's how you stay organized and prevent yourself from burning out in this business because you're working so many hours. The reason you're having to work so many hours is because you're doing things inefficiently, because you don't have a rhyme nor reason on how you're operating your business, so you're all over the place, and that's draining. Nobody wants to live like that. So when that for sale by owner says, tell me a little bit more, you say, well, can we meet at 12:30, right? Because the way your calendar says your time slots are broken out, 12:30 gives you 30 minutes to arrive to your appointment. You got to put in some time for you to arrive. Always set your appointments for an hour, so 12:30 to 1:30. Then you set your next appointment at 2 o'clock. That gives you another 30 minutes to arrive to your next location. Then meet from 2 to 3. You set your next appointment slot for 3:30. Give yourself 30 minutes to arrive. You have to, when you are putting these things in place, you have to look at it from a level of practicality. I can't say my appointment slots are 12:30, 1:30, and 2:30 because I haven't plugged in any time for me to go from one appointment to the next. You can't schedule it like that, right? Well, say that for sale by owner says he's not available today, but he's available in 2 days, right? You look on your calendar, you see what all you have on there. You see you have a 2 o'clock slot open, and you plug that for sale by owner in there at 2 o'clock on your calendar. So what does that mean? In 2 days, when you wake up to start your day, to go through your routine, put your clothes on, brush your teeth, get your breakfast together, you pull your phone out and your calendar out and you see, oh, I have an appointment today at 2 o'clock with a for sale by owner that I scheduled 2 days ago, right? Who was in my wise agent, who I was on my call list, who I had sent information to about house tie, and who I had put on a rotation to follow up every couple of days or every week. But I originally first met him, say, a month ago, and now he's ready to go, right? But I had all of this stuff connected to get me to a point to where now I'm meeting with him, and there's an opportunity for me to make money by us getting together with this for sale by owner. It takes all of that working in tandem, working and being connected. It takes all of that for you to turn a dollar in this business. It takes all of that, right? So yeah, we're gonna do a connecting the dots part 2 next week, but I'm gonna end it now and open up the lines for any questions or any comments, any coaching that we need to do, any similar situations that we need. We can talk about those items, and and we can go from there. I know I was going to talk a little bit about some conflict resolution. Maybe before we do that, I'll spend about 5 minutes going through that. There is a scenario that actually I'm dealing with. I'm going to tell you about one of my scenarios. So we had a duplex, and the buyer ended up going past the amendment. Make a long story short, they couldn't get their financing, right? Well, the seller that I'm working with is really pressed for time. The house is about to get foreclosed on, so they really pressed for time. So they needed to get this property sold, and they're just real anxious, real in their feelings, right? We use that a lot. They're in their feelings. So when this deal falls through, because the buyer's saying that they need 2 more weeks, the seller's not willing to give them 2 more weeks because they're tired of this rigmarole. Well, the only challenge that we've had is that the buyer is their attorneys, so they think that they know everything. So they were trying to get their earnest money back by using different stipulations of the contract. One of the stipulations of the contract that they were attempting to use was that they didn't receive the seller's disclosure within 3 days, which was stipulated on the contract, that they received the seller's disclosure within 3 days. And if they didn't receive the seller's disclosure within those 3 days, they had a right to terminate. All right. Well, if you read, now mind you, this is, weeks, multiple weeks after that stipulation. And this is why you got to pay attention to what's said in that contract and the numbers that are put in that contract. The only problem for them, though, is that the way it reads is that, yeah, if you don't get the seller's disclosure within 3 days, you can terminate. But if you get the seller's disclosure, you have 7 days to terminate if you choose to. Well, they opted not to terminate within that 7-day window. So since they opted not to terminate within that 7-day window, then now that is not grounds for them to receive their earnest money back. So they're still in default of the contract, right? Well, at this point, they're still not willing to sign the release of earnest money. And when I say at this point, I'm talking about like right now, they're still not signing the release of earnest money. But when it comes to conflict resolution, this is something that, this right here doesn't make us money. Having to deal with this kind of stuff doesn't make us money. It's a distraction, and it's draining, right? But it's something that we have to do. We just have to find out a way to deal with these things and try to resolve these things as quickly as we can so we can get back to the things that do make us money, that do help us have a better quality of life. But these things don't. But I want to use them as opportunities to show you that it ain't just you, it ain't just on your deals. This happens in real estate. You just need to be conscious of it, and you need to resolve it with honey and sugar. Be nice, be sweet. Don't add fuel to the fire. You don't get in your feelings. You stay grounded mentally and emotionally, because any of that stuff is just going to make it worse, and it's going to prolong it. You have got to deal with the conflict and resolve it as fast as possible. And you got to do everything that you can to resolve it as fast as possible. So they still haven't signed. The buyer still wants the money back. But we're going to fight it if the seller does decide to take them to court over it. I mean, our documentation shows that they're not entitled to it. Okay, so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. But we do have a question on the floor. So it says, does that work for any other person, say a seller or a buyer, if we would rather not work with a sell by owner? So LaTanya, you can take yourself off mute. Tell me specifically, like, what's your question when you're asking that? Does what work? Does what work? You're saying, does that work? What's that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you keep speaking about fishbowl. Fishbowl, call the fishbowl, with the fishbowl, set up a time or make an appointment with the fishbowl. Try and get them as a lead. Does that work for a seller, or does that work for a buyer if they're not ready?
Does what? The CRM?
No, the way that you're saying the to call the FISBO and tell them about the
House tie.
yes house time.
So I think the point that I was trying to make with that is that you have to find out something that's valuable to an individual for you to have a reason to call them.
Oh, okay.
And I just use for sale by owner because that's what a lot, we hear that a lot. I know we hear that a lot about, hey, you need to call for sale by owners, but it's more than just calling them. You need to have a reason to call them, and the reason can't be because you want to list their house. That's not going to get you anywhere with them. You have to call them for something that is of value to them, right? A program that we just started here from a corporate standpoint, giving us reason on why we could to call for sale by owners. I call it date the for sale by owner. So we don't want to marry them, right? Clearly they have a problem with commitment. That's why they don't want to sign a listing agreement. But we want to date them, right? Because if we eventually do, we know that they're going to get married at some point because the statistics say that they are. We just need to be around long enough for when they're ready to get married, meaning when they're ready to sign a listing agreement with somebody. Well, how do you do that? How do you stay around long enough with somebody until they're ready to get married? You date them, right? So we want to date the for sale by owner. Well, how are we going to date them? We're going to offer them things. How do people date? If I like a young lady and she ain't feeling me just yet, I do things for her that she likes. Let me take her out, buy her things, buy her gifts, like it's about her. So we created a program for dating the for sale by owners, and we made it about them. Right? We'll take your property and we'll add it to our Brooks and Davis website. We'll give you some added exposure. We'll add it to this Facebook page here. We'll if you got any questions while you're going through the process, call into the office and we'll give you some. We'll answer your questions. So, they're not signing a listing agreement. They're just signing what's called a memorandum of understanding. And all that does is say, this is what we said we're gonna do for you. This is what we ask that you do for us. As we're dating, as we're going through this partnership, this relationship, right? So now that's, it's no cost, it's no commitment to them. They're more open to listen to what we're having to say and entertain it. And what it does is it puts us in a position to where we can stay connected to them, as well as gives us an off-market inventory. So now we have something of value to offer to a buyer, right? What makes us different from another realtor? Well, realtors we all have access to the MLS, but we're the only ones that have access to our off-market inventory that we've created. That's what makes us different. So when you're saying, does that work? Yes, having something of value to offer to people works for everybody. You just got to, number one, decide who is it that you want to target. Is it buyers? Is it sellers? Is it sell by owners? Is it referral partners, say your builders, or CPAs, financial advisors? Who is it that you want to go after, right? And look, we can strategize. I'm all about strategy. I can give you a strategy on, hey, how do you reap the benefits? Does this make sense to try to go after this person, this type of person? What kind of technique, what kind of strategy should we use to try to go after somebody like this to where they could send us good leads? Financial planners have the best leads because most wealthy people and have financial planners, and before they do anything, they consult their financial advisor before they do anything. So if they're thinking about selling their $1 million house, they're going to speak to they're either going to speak to their financial advisor about it, or they're going to speak to their CPA about it. They're going to speak to these people about it before they speak to a realtor. So you having a relationship with those type of individuals can be extremely beneficial for you. But how do you go after those people? How do you get a reason to call or cold call those individuals? What will you have to offer them? What reason do you give them for them to not only answer your call, but to listen to what you have to say to them, right? So yes, that works for everybody. Did that answer your question, Latanya?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so anybody else have any questions or any comments? Please let me know. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for you guys to engage. We've sat here for an hour and we've talked about connecting the dots. Well, what questions do you have around that? What do you want me to go into any more detail or any more depth about anything that I talked about? let me know. What problems are you having? What challenges are you having right now? It's a great time right now for us to brainstorm and mastermind and work through some things. Anybody have anything? No? Okay. Well, I'll stay back a little bit just in case anybody does, or if anything comes up, or if anybody wants to talk, I'll stay back for a little bit. But if not, you guys have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous weekend. Continue to enjoy the rest of your spring break. And it's Friday now. Let's hit the ground running on Monday and start implementing some of this stuff that I've been telling you about. Let's start doing it. Now it's not the one thing that we're gonna do that Brooks and Davis is committed to doing is making sure that you can't say that you didn't know. You're gonna know what it takes to be successful in this business. You're gonna have access to all of that. Now it's just a matter of you doing the things, and that's not something we're not responsible for that. We can't do anything about making you do the stuff that we're telling you to do. So now it's about you doing it. Okay? If you have questions about it, if you don't understand some things, as always, we have the Thursday meetings, but you can also call me on my cell phone, send me a text, send me an email, and we can talk through it. We can help you through it. All right? All right, gang. Have a great one.